1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Royal Blue Podcast Soundcheck. Wednesday show live. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Royal Blue Podcast live. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Hello and welcome to the Royal Blue Podcast. It's the Wednesday show. We are live and I am your host, Ian Croll. Joining me in the Royal Blue studio today to talk all things Everton, we've got Connor O'Neill. Connor, how are you? A few days off after today. Any big plans?
It is a few days off today and I'm going on some end of season warm weather relaxation. I'm off to Portugal on Saturday. So
I didn't realise you were away.
Yeah, so bit of warm weather, end of season, feet up. You know,
anywhere in particular in Portugal that you're going?
The Algarve, a place called Villamora.
So, Villamora, yeah. I don't know it. Usually, Connor, you plan your annual leave around international breaks, don't you?
That is technically true. I do that as well. But for this specific time, I thought I'd break rank with that and go and get some sun in the Portuguese sun. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
I guess you could technically label this as some sort of it's a domestic break anyway.
Well, there's no important football going on. There's no Champions League finals, but the important stuff's finished now, isn't it? So, yeah. But I do normally take holiday around the international breaks. Yeah, I'm not a big lover of the international breaks. It has to be said.
Well, fingers crossed you come back nice and tanned and.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be too tanned because I'm not very good in the sun. I burn very easily, but a little bronzy would not go amiss.
Okay, but before we move on, just a little special message. I just wanted to say. Everyone here from the Royal Blue Podcast and the Liverpool Echo are deeply saddened by the horrific incident that took place in Liverpool City Centre on Monday for Liverpool Football Club's Premier League victory celebrations. Quite clearly, many people are still trying to comprehend the devastating scenes, and our thoughts and wishes go to the injured people and the injured people's family and friends. So, Connor, obviously, I'm sure you echo those thoughts as well.
Yeah, 100%. It was quite horrifying, wasn't it, when we saw what happened on Monday and everything kind of come out what had happened. And I knew people who were at all different places pointing to the parade on Monday. I've got friends and family Liverpool supporters, and yeah, it was just absolutely horrific. And our thoughts and prayers were everyone connected, those injured and those who were just there, because I can imagine it's quite traumatic to see something like that unfold in front of your own eyes. So yeah, thoughts and prayers with everyone who was there and know someone who in some way or another was connected to people who were there on Monday.
Yeah, hope everyone involved is obviously a speedy recovery. Okay, moving on then. Just want to apologise for the fact that there was no YouTube show on Monday. I know Chris Beasley and Joe Thomas did put an audio show out on their way back from Newcastle. Be honest, I'm not entirely sure how good the audio quality is from that, because I think it was done via a phone. I've obviously been off the past couple of days, so just back into the seat, into the hosting chair. So it is that time of year. Obviously, people taking holidays. We have been a little bit short-staffed, so we're just going to do our utmost, as usual, to bring you the usual 3 shows a week. Me and Connor, literally just before we came in, discussing things that we can talk about over the next couple of weeks. I'm sure that there will be plenty to discuss. In terms of today's agenda, obviously going to take a brief look back at the Newcastle game, the 1-0 win, and we'll also look at some potential incomings of the club and some potential outgoings as well. And as always, give us a thumbs up, drop us a like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Support is greatly appreciated. We are live, as always, so get your comments in on the stream. Connor, will go straight into the Newcastle game. I'll be honest with you, absolutely delighted that we got the win. Didn't see much of the game with me being away, but I think I was a little bit surprised, to be honest. I didn't necessarily think Everton players would be on the beach, because I know David Moyes wouldn't allow that. I just felt that maybe the Sunday game against Southampton, not the intensity of it itself, but just everything around it would have taken just too much away from the players. Quite clearly not.
Yeah, I mean, I did watch it, and it was one of the best performances we've seen under since David Moyes come back in January. Everton were absolutely superb from the first whistle to the last. Moyes even said himself, didn't he, afterwards, he was a little bit concerned going into it, because he said he felt there'd been a little bit of a drop-off in training in the week building up to it, but it was understandable given, the energy and all the focus that had come the week before in terms of the Southampton game at Goodison Park. But yeah, Everton were absolutely superb and fully warranted the 1-0 victory. Probably could and should have maybe scored again towards the end. Obviously, Calvert-Lewin has a really good chance, but yeah, it was just a real professional, solid display, and I think the sort of performance that we want to see more often next season. And one thing you can say about David Moyes is he's made Everton incredibly tough to play on the road, because our rate form under him is nothing short of spectacular, given how bad it was under Sean Dyche and how bad it's been in previous years. Moyes has come in and he's won at Brighton, he's won at Forest, he's won at Crystal Palace, he's now won at Newcastle. The tough places to go, and Everton come away with 3 points. And on a lot of them occasions, they deserve to come away with all 3 points as well. So, yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. And it was a really good way, I think, to finish the season, because, like I say, I think there was a bit of fear in the air that perhaps Everton's season finished the week before on the Sunday against Southampton, given the occasion and everything that went with Goodison Park. But no, Everton were absolutely superb, and they nearly spoilt Newcastle's party. Obviously, the Champions League race, looked like Newcastle were going to fall short, but obviously they were
very lucky,
helped in the end by the fact that Manchester United pulled somewhat of a surprise victory out the hat against Aston Villa at Old Trafford. But from an Everton perspective, superb from start to finish.
I mean, you do see it quite often in games that mean something to the opposition team. When the pressure's on, it's the team under pressure that falters, and obviously that happened on Sunday. The team in Everton, who had nothing to play for, 13th in the table, couldn't go up, couldn't go down, but got the win, played the better football. I mean, we've discussed at length why is it that under David Moyes specifically, Everton have been better away from home. Is there much more to it, or is it literally just because we are better without the ball, and we can, when we don't have the ball, serious lengths, we can be a bit more proactive and attacking with it?
I think we are obviously better without the ball. That's one area, isn't it? I think we'd all agree on that. We need to improve. We need to get better ball players in, but people who have more impact on the ball going forward. I just think the way we're set up as well, I think we're set up more for that counter-attacking kind of way of playing, and perhaps playing at home at Goodison and having to take the game to opposition. But I just think the biggest thing for me, I think more than anything away from home, is we have a bit of spirit, a bit of fight, and we don't tend to crumble, and we tend to digging deep. Even Chelsea, obviously we lost 1-0 recently, but we didn't falter. Obviously we fell behind, and first half wasn't great, but second half we got back into the game and we pushed. Only a couple of good Sanchez saves to stop us keeping take the point. So I think we're just the way we set up more than anything. I think you are right in terms of we're out the ball. We probably are better than being on the ball, and I think obviously the plays we've got that helps, because I think they're a lot better in terms of counter-attacking than getting on the ball and making things happen. I
mean, obviously one player who you would look at now in the squad, who is quite clearly technically gifted, I guess, if you want to call him that, and is a player you would look to get on the ball and make things happen. Carlos Alcaraz scored the goal. Still a lot of speculation over his future. We know that Everton didn't meet or match the criteria for a £12 million fee, or 12 million euro fee. But surely now, no brainer to get him in for next season.
Yeah, I'd like to think, obviously, David Moyes said, hasn't it, they're in talks, or the club have confirmed that they're still in talks. Yeah, it does feel like a bit of a no-brainer. I think he's had a massive impact since he come in. Obviously, he took his goal really well on Sunday. His contributions have been really positive. And yeah, it does feel a bit of a no-brainer. I think we'd all be disappointed if there wasn't a way in which Everton could get this deal over the line, because he does feel like someone who could blossom and become even better next season.
Especially with Decore leaving as well, who would, usually play in that number 10 position. Everton are quite light in that department at the minute in terms of quality. I know we've got Harrison Armstrong who could potentially play there, but we don't know what his future lies next season.
Listen to David Moyes recently. You'd suspect that he's going to return pre-season, be a part of the pre-season plans, but then they'll make a judgment call on whether it's the right time to send them back out on loan again and get a bit more game time, because I think, at his age, he needs to play football matches. That's the most important thing. If he's not going to do that at Everton, then, or he's going to have to do that by playing under 21s, then it makes sense to put him out on loan. So
it's probably too good for the under 21s, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's that element, isn't it? Is it a bit of a step down for him because given where he's been, the second half of last season, obviously this season, in the Championship. So yeah, there's a lot of big decisions to make. But just going back to Alcaraz, I think we'd all be bitterly disappointed if Everton can't get a deal over the line for him to join permanently this summer, because he has had a big impact, and he's someone who you used to look at and think there's a lot more there. There's huge potential there. There's huge potential for him to blossom and become a better player.
I think it would be seen as a missed opportunity. And you've also got to look at the fact that if we don't get him over the line, other Premier League clubs are going to be looking at him, and they could take advantage of that. You don't want to miss a step with him. I know there's probably other players out there who we are looking at, and obviously valuation of the player comes into it. I get that, but I mentioned last week, for a player already integrated into the team, he knows what to expect now going into the new season. I just think it's a no-brainer, really. I mean, his goal, someone described it as Tim Cahill-esque.
Yeah, quite a few people were saying that, weren't he? Was it Tim Cahill-esque?
A fox in the box, maybe.
I think you're probably an accurate representation of the goal he did score, yeah.
And just a brief mention on Ndai. Thought, again, I say I thought he played well. I've seen people say he played well. He's almost coming back to his best at the wrong time, isn't he? We know he got injured in the derby a couple of months back and then took a while to get back. And let's face it, he hasn't been up to his usual standard. But certainly over the past 2 or 3 games, obviously the Southampton game, been fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, he's a star, isn't he? I think I called him after the Southampton game the magician. But he just floats around the pitch, doesn't he? He's just got that bit of something that no one else in the squad has got. He's got that ability to make things happen on the ball, which not many people players have got in Everton's squad. And yeah, it's quite disappointing, isn't it? It just feels like he's getting back to his best. The season comes to a halt, but hopefully now he'll go away, stay fit, and come back next season and hit the ground running, because you do think that, with the greatest of respect to Everton's squad and the players that they've been bringing, Iliman Ndiaye is going to be crucial to anything that they do well next season. He's going to play a big part in anything that they do well next season. So hopefully, he'll go back now. He'll go away now, bit of a rest, recuperate, and come back stronger in the summer and look to kick on and get even better.
Just sticking with the Newcastle game, a lot is always made of Jordan Pickford when Everton go and play Newcastle, certainly when we're going up to the northeast. How did you think he handled the reception that he got at St James's Park?
I don't think it got to him one bit, did it? I think just a couple of times he's been there now and it's not clearly got to him. Yeah. He's matured, hasn't he? He's a better all-round goalkeeper than, certainly that year when Everton threw away 2-0 lead and lost 3-2 and he was at fault for a couple of the goals. That's far cry now from the Jordan Pickford that we see on a weekly basis for Everton between the sticks. And look, I think no one needs to tell Evertonians do how good Jordan Pickford is, because we've all seen it with our own eyes over the last couple of years. He's played a crucial part in Everton remaining a Premier League football club, and you do think without him, would he still be a Premier League football club? Who knows? But no, I think he took it all in his stride, didn't he? And I don't think he lets that stuff affect him anymore. And I'm sure he was absolutely delighted that he rocked up at St James's Park on Sunday, knowing that his beloved Sunderland were back to the Premier League next season. And I'm sure that was the perfect warm-up for him for his little trip to St James's Park on Sunday, having watched his beloved Black Cats get over the line at Wembley in probably the most crazy fashion imaginable, scoring in the 95th minute.
It was interesting subplot for next season, that, isn't it? With Sunderland coming back up. I'm delighted for Sunderland, by the way, to come back into the Premier League. But yeah, Jordan, we will obviously take the trip to the Stadium of Light, and no doubt Jordan Pickford will play. I'm sure Tony Scott said last week on the show that he wouldn't have minded
to give him the weekend off.
Yeah, so he could go to
I don't think David Moyes is that type of manager, is he? I don't think he would be. Not a great look as if you trying to step professional standards and stuff. If you then give your goalkeeper, who's one of your best players, the weekend off to go down to Wembley to watch his beloved Sunderland play. I don't think though. I think I know it's not very serious, but I don't think any Everton fan would have begrudged Moyes giving him the weekend off. I don't think anyone would have been sat there going, I can't believe he's done that. I think most would have been saying, go on, son, go and have the weekend of your life. But Moyes was far too professional for antics like that.
Look, it was the right decision. It's been proved to be the right decision. And I'm sure he watched a bit of Sunderland on the Saturday.
I think he did watch it all, yeah. I think he watched it all. But, look, I think Pickford's just all-round matured. It's not just when he goes to Newcastle, is it? He's matured, his game's matured, hasn't he? He's a better goalkeeper now than what he was a couple of years ago. And, there's not many flaws to his game. And I think that's one of the biggest plus points you can give him, is that he's matured in a way in which now it's very hard to pick flaws in his game.
Finishing off on Newcastle, and any other standouts or individual standout performances? Are we going to get any praise for Beto?
Beto.
You've seen on Twitter someone or a couple of people saying, my God, Beto's hold-up play's got a lot better.
I have to say, I did turn to my uncle. I was watching the game on Sunday, and he's a big
Hang on, are you going to praise Beto?
He's a big Beto fan. I said, Beto slowly winning me over with these type of performances.
You need to get your uncle on this podcast.
No, definitely don't. But no, I was impressed with Beto. I thought he'd done really well.
Yeah.
I think I don't know what they're doing in training with Beto, but I can only imagine that they're working intensively on his playing, his build-up play, because something over the last few weeks has changed. He does look a better player. All of a sudden, he seems to have found this way of playing which enables him to hold the ball up and put defenders under pressure, which we hadn't seen for large parts this season. So I don't know what they're doing in training, but it's clearly working a treat.
Do you think, just from what I've obviously, again, didn't see the Newcastle game, so I can't comment on that, but just from previous ones, I completely agree. Do you think maybe some of the advice that he's been getting is to maybe just try and slow things down?
Possibly,
just a little bit.
I think it was David Moyes when he first come in, didn't he? He was a bit frustrated with him because he said, he was shooting from 40 yards. He said, I've had to tell him, you're not going to score from there. What are you doing? Type thing. and maybe some of them home truths have worked, and he's listened, and he's got better. And I was impressed with him on Sunday, and it's now going to be an interesting wait, isn't it, to see what happens. And obviously we await news of Dominic Calvert-Lewin as well, because obviously as we sit here on this Wednesday afternoon, we still don't know what his situation is at the football club going into next season. So yeah, it's going to be, I was impressed with Beto, and I also think big shout out to Jake O'Brien and Michael Keane at the back, because they were solid. Obviously Jake O'Brien has become a bit of an unsung hero, hasn't he? And his emergence in the second half of this season has been, something special, given that he initially went in at right back and, just slotted in and looked like he'd been playing right back all his life. So he's had to start playing centre back in recent weeks. He's done quite well there, admittedly alongside Jarrett Brownthwaite and then Michael Keane on Sunday. And I think it's crazy now, isn't it, when you think that there was Sean Dyche had concerns about Jake O'Brien being good enough to play in the Premier League in that first part of the season. You look at what Moyes has got out of him in the second half of the season. It's absolutely mind blowing. So, big shout out to him. And like I say, a big shout out to Michael Keane. Could be his last performance for the football club as well. He was solid. Obviously, someone who comes in for criticism, but I thought he was really good and dealt with the threat of Isaac really well. Because obviously, I think Isaac's one of the best forwards in the Premier League, and they didn't really give him a sniff at the weekend. So, massive kudos to them two lads for how they played.
Just got a quote here that I picked up on from David Moyes after the game. Basically said, I think the result is maybe as good as we've had since he returned. I think it said more about the players who are playing for Everton today in terms of what they put in and the character they've got. Since I've come in, I can only tell you that the players have been brilliant, their effort, their commitment and their drive. Have we been wrong about some of these players?
I don't think we, when you say wrong, I don't think people have questioned attitude and commitment at times. Maybe we have a little bit. There has been occasions, I think, where Everton have not probably been at the best. I think we're right to question ability and the ability to actually, win games of football. But I don't think you can question the commitment and the attitude of a lot of the squad. It's just been probably a little bit down to ability and being good enough in certain areas of the pitch. And I think we saw, didn't we, for a large part of the season. The final third is just an area that we struggle in. We can't create many chances. When we do get the chances, we often don't take them. And if you don't score goals, you don't win football matches. And, for being honest, we didn't win enough football matches in the first half of the season. David Moyes, I think himself, will probably be a little bit aware that, there's been games, certainly some of them home draws at Goodison, where we had chances and we didn't take them. And we were forced to settle for a point. And if we're being honest, we probably should have come away with all three. And, that I think we need to improve next season if we're to, aim for higher up the table. But I don't think you can question their attitude and their commitment. I think we can question, the ability and how good some of these players are. But I think from certainly what Moyes said there in terms of attitude and commitment, I don't think you can question that for most of the season.
No, obviously David Moyes is a humble person in general, and he's literally, from that quote, from how I read it, he's put all the praise on the players, but he's obviously got the exact same players as previous regimes, and I'm not just talking about Sean Dyche, but he seems to be getting a lot more, a lot of credit. Obviously, he's not going to credit himself and all that, but a lot of credit should go to David Moyes and how he's turned.
A lot of credit and more.
I don't want the season to end. I'm sure a lot of Everton fans like that. You're going to feel like that after, obviously, 2 wins in a row. Certainly wasn't expecting the win against Newcastle. The season's almost
3
ended.
wins in a row.
3, sorry, yeah.
Are we doing them a disservice?
No, I was just thinking of the home ones. I forgot about the other one. I just don't want the season to end. It's almost ended at the wrong time for us, because who knows what could have happened if we'd had, like, say, another 5, 6, 7, 8 games.
Well, people say,
like
we should have sacked Dyche after Bournemouth back in September, and we should have done this and we should have done that. We'll never know what the best way was, and what could have happened. I think you just got to be thankful of what did happen. I stepped away at the right time. David Moyes had come in at the right time with enough games to make sure that we weren't fighting relegation in the final things. I think the big thing what David Moyes has done, and this is something I think you probably struggle to say for a couple of years, he's made watching Everton quite enjoyable again, hasn't he? He's made watching Everton enjoyable.
I can't wait for the start of the new season.
If we're being honest, and be honest, I found watching Everton under Sean Dyche incredibly boring, predictable, and it was painful at times because the football was absolutely dreadful. There was games where I sat in that press box at Goodison and could not work out how we planned to score a goal. There was games where you just knew what we were going to do for 90 minutes. And there was games where we'd go 1-0 behind and you might say, well, just packed up and all gone home and said, well, the big one I always thought was Forest, just after Christmas, because I thought they stood the lead, I think, after 11 minutes. And you felt then, everyone in the ground knew this is game over.
Already,
we're not going to get back into this one. We didn't get back into it. Everything was predictable. We just launched the ball forward. Their 2 centre-backs dealt with it with ease. And in the end, we got picked off, made a mistake, and they scored, made it 2-0. And the game was done with half an hour to go. With Moyes, we've got a little bit of fight, a little bit of character. Even Fulham the other week, we went 1-0 down after half an hour. I think people then were thinking, where we go?
Yeah.
We're on the beach. Players got the flip-flops on. Okay, but we're fortunate enough to score an equaliser on the stroke of half-time, which takes a massive deflection. But then second half, we come out and looked at a totally different team, took the game to Fulham, and then took them away with all 3 points. And I think that's the big difference. You can get excited a little bit, and it was just great. I know we banged on about it, and probably over on about it too much a little bit, but it was just great to be able to go to Goodison for that Southampton game and just enjoy the day and take it all in. There was nothing riding. Obviously, you want to win, of course, but there was nothing riding on it. There was no, we've got to win to stay up. We've got to get a point to stay up. It was just great to go. You know what? I'm going to go today. I'm going to soak this up. Last time at Goodison, in my season ticket seat or whatnot, going well from the bus. I spoke to Dwight McNeil afterwards, and this is, do you find it strange? Because obviously normally these things happen. That's why you're fighting relegation. He was like, yeah, it is. It is something different like that. But yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing from all this. I just think there's been, and a lot of enjoyment has been put back into watching Everton, and you've got to, that all stems the fuss of David Moyes and what he's done. He's absolutely transforming the team. Probably say he's transforming a football club and how we operate and how we approach things. I wrote for today's paper and this morning online, he was talking afterwards about Champions League, and saying, the celebrations in Newcastle are full time. He wants that to be Everton one day. And look, I think we can all agree he needs some backing to take Everton into Champions League contenders, given what we've seen at the top end of the table. But it was just nice to be an Everton manager talk with a bit of ambition and sit there and go, you know what, we should look at this and soak this in, and this should whet the appetite for us next season, trying to do exactly what Newcastle have done, get up the table and let's have a go. Sean Dyche, for all his, kind of the feeling around him, he was a very dour man, wasn't he, at times, and maybe some might say he was being realistic, but kind of almost sitting there going, well, you know, staying in the Premier League, that's good enough for us. You don't really want to wear that, do you, from your manager? You want to wear something more ambition. And just to where David Moyes saying, you know, basically just should whet the appetite to what we want to do moving forward. But what Everton fans want to wear. It's what we want, a bit of ambition. You want to have going to a season looking to have a go and have a crack at trying to do something. Not just thinking, we need to make sure we finish 17th, you know. And hopefully that's what David Moyes is going to do moving forward.
Well, it's surely a visible change in tact from Moyes as well, because when you think about it, his first stint, you know, he always played down expectation. And whether that was right or wrong, I guess he was just being realistic. As you mentioned there, Sean Dyche, I guess, was trying to just be realistic when he was in charge. We know when Moyes was in charge in his first stint, he was fighting up against billionaire owners. And that was a struggle. He's still doing it now. Obviously, it's the landscape's changed slightly, but it's completely different now. You wouldn't hear Moyes say we're hoping just to survive. Like, he's whether it's right or wrong, he's already talking about we need to be challenging for those European places. So only naturally, your expectations risen, mine as everyone else has risen. Whether that's a good thing, don't know, because the club are going to have to back it up.
They are, but I think what Moyes has done now is he's saying a lot of this, and I think we all feel quite confident because what we've seen on the football pitch.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, what we have seen with our own eyes, and you know, and like you said earlier, this is a group of players that he inherited off Sean Dyche. You only had one player, and that's Alcaraz. And I think we can all say that he was a breath of fresh air. You know, he's done really well. But this is a group of players. Like I say, you know, you look at someone like Jacob O'Brien, he's an absolute shoo-in to start next season. You know, whether it be right back or centre back, been outstanding. You know, prior to David Moyes' arrival, he didn't get a look in. You know, he was fourth choice centre back at some point in the campaign. So when you see stuff like that, you know, it does kind of get you not excited, but you know, it does kind of make you think, get a few more players in, the right players in this summer. You know, we could have a go. And I just think David Moyes has shown himself, and people can say we're getting carried away, but I think Moyes has shown himself in the 6 months that he's been here, or 5 months that he's been here. He's just a good Premier League football manager who knows how to get results.
We should probably reserve predictions, I guess, or our expectations till at least we've brought in a couple of players. And
we've got a long summer ahead anyway.
Yes,
so
see where the landscape lies. And, you know, let's have it right. Other teams are going to buy players as well.
I mean, that's the big thing, isn't it? You look around, you know, City are looking to strengthen, aren't they? Liverpool are going to strengthen. Manchester United are going to strengthen. Arsenal have already said that they're going to strengthen. And they're the teams at the top end.
Yeah, I was going to say, you need to be looking at the likes of Brentford and Fulham
that's
and all
what I'm
that.
saying. You know, you've got the teams at the top end who are all going to strengthen, and, you know, that obviously filtered down. And, you know, it's going to be an interesting summer, I think, for a lot of reasons at, you know, a lot of clubs.
Just looking at some of the comments as you were speaking there. So David Murphy, he's eating humble pie. He says, I was dead set against Moyes coming back. I'm full to the brim with humble pie. He's done a magnificent job since returning. Sorry, Mr. Moyes. However, a little counter to that, Gas Pipe says, hang on, David Murphy. He hasn't done anything yet. It's not a great achievement keeping Everton up. So I think, again, it's just finding that balance, isn't it?
I think, I get that, but I think where we was when David Moyes broke through the doors,
fighting relegation,
to where we are now, I think is a good job. Because let's face it, we all feared the worst in January, that we were heading. Because, look, you've got to be honest, there's only so many times, isn't it, that you can circle the drain before you eventually get sucked down. And I think we all feared a little bit that, having had 2 of the previous 3 seasons where we've got incredibly close to getting sucked down, there's always that season where nothing does just come off for you, and you end up down there. And obviously, thankfully, that didn't happen. That didn't happen because David Moyes returns to the football club at the right time.
We've got plenty of comments coming in, so I'm just going to try and read a couple out before we move on. So Tim Dawson talking about Beto. Give Beto 3 weeks holiday, then get him back in pre-season training, working on his weaknesses. Get Dunk or Sharpie in to coach him and how to play as a centre forward and head the ball properly. He's got a great attitude. Yeah, you agree with that? Would you get Dunk or Sharpie on the coaching staff?
I don't know if Sharpie's just got it in him anymore, given his age, and that's no disrespect to Graham Sharp, but Dunk might be a good option. He's not doing much at the minute, is he?
Teddy Dactyle on Sean Dyche, I think in reference to what you said there, Connor. Dyche sucked what little life there was in the team. Last 11 games, we didn't win and we didn't score in 8 of them. Mark Foster on Alcaraz. Bournemouth and Brighton love on Alcaraz. We need to get a wiggle on. I guess we're in pole position though, aren't we, for that?
We should be, yeah. We should be.
And another one from Terry Dactyle on Alcaraz. Alcaraz makes things happen. He carries it, has vision, and can play the right pass. Definitely promising, isn't it?
Yeah. Like I say, there's a player there, that's for sure.
Okay, I'll continue to read some comments as we go on, but we'll move on from the Newcastle game. Everton's last Premier League game of the season finished in a 1-0 win. Couldn't be happier. Let's move on to a potential incoming. Liam Delap set to decide
Potential. That's bold, Ian.
Well, it is a potential. Why would you not describe? If we're in talks with him, it's a potential incoming,
Yeah,
isn't it?
us and 4 of the clubs are in talks with him, so
If I'd said it was a concrete potential move or concrete move,
that's incredibly bold.
Listen, according to reports,
Yeah.
Everton are prepared to make a very big financial proposal to Liam Delap. I mean, obviously, we talked about Liam Delap at length on this podcast. We know Tony Scott's a big fan. I said on Wednesday, genuinely think Tony Scott deserves some sort of signing on fee for this, because he's pushed from the start, even when it was like no one was speaking about it. Look, I think what we know is that he's spoken to 4 or 5 Premier League clubs, including Everton, obviously Chelsea, United, I think Newcastle, among all of those. It's a very difficult one to answer, Connor, because you're a blue and you're always, not always, but you're more than likely going to answer questions with your blue hat on. If you were Liam Delap, where would you go?
It's the $1 million question, isn't it?
Is it all about money? Is it all about how much you're going to play? All about where you see yourself in 2 to 3 years?
I think the biggest problem Everton have got, David Moyes said on Friday, reported by Chris Beasley, our colleague at the Echo, that he felt Everton were behind the black ball in terms of, the chase for Delap, and obviously they made the pitch and they'd obviously told him what they think and where he's going to fit in, etc. You suspect that's what the pitch is. They were behind the black ball. I think the problem Everton have got is Manchester United.
Really, yeah?
Because I think if United weren't as bad as what they are, and they were crying out for fresh kinds of a kiss of life from a couple of players this summer, because they've obviously been really poor, haven't they, struggled. I think Everton would have a good chance of getting Liam Delap. But I think the fact that he knows he can go to Manchester United, he'll play every week, he'll be their number 9, and they're not quite at the level where he's going to have to go and score 30 goals to win the title. He's just going to have to go in there and start scoring goals to get them back up the table. I think that is the big stumbling block for Everton. I think if it was the United of 10 years ago, and they already had like a well-established centre-forward, they might stand a chance of nipping him, because I think he might look at it and think, well, actually, for the next couple of years, I'm going to go and play at Everton. I'm going to play every week, be number 9, and be the focal point of the team. I'm not going to get that Manchester United. But I think because of how United have gone and the position that they find themselves in, I think it's a bit of a worry. I think they could offer him a lot that he will want.
They can offer him a lot more than what we can offer him. I think every club in that group can probably do that.
Well, I disagree with that, because I don't think Newcastle can offer him what we can. Because I think Delap will know himself that Isaac's number 1 centre forward. And I think if you're Delap, you've got to look at it and think, where am I going to play every week? Because that's the most important thing. Because it's great being the prospect that he is, and he's obviously had a really good season in the Premier League. Obviously impressed for an Ipswich side that has struggled. So you've got to kick on now. You've got to go and play every week again. He's not going to do that with Newcastle because Isaac's so good. I mean, and I genuinely think Isaac is one of the best forwards in the world at the minute, let alone the Premier League. So I think Everton can offer him something that Newcastle can't, and that's guaranteed football every week.
No, I don't disagree. However, I mean, we could talk about the permutations of this deal, all podcast all day, to be honest. With the Newcastle one, he could see it as taking a risk, obviously, as playing second fiddle to Isaac. Mm-hmm. However, he is one of the best strikers in the league, if not the world. There's question marks over his injuries and fitness. Now, I think that's that question on that. I think he plays quite a lot. However, if he does get injured, Delap could take a risk on it, and I'm then going to be playing as the number 1 striker for the team in the Champions League. Yeah, I'm not trying to sell him to Newcastle. That's not what I'm trying to do. There's obviously...
Well, there's me giving a good counter argument why I shouldn't go there.
Yeah, he shouldn't go there. He should come to Everton.
That's why you just told me
I'm just trying to... Look, if he goes to Everton, the thing is, he's going to be playing virtually every week.
Oh, he will be playing every week. He's going to play every week.
However, he still needs the competition. He shouldn't just think, I'm going to be in there every week regardless of whether I score or not. I think with the United, I slightly disagree with that. I think if he goes to United, the pressure will be on him immediately to score 20.
It's going to be on Everton,
24.
No?
No matter where he goes,
no matter where he goes, he's going to be under pressure.
I don't think, again, I'm speaking with my Everton bubble on, or Everton hat on. It is what it is. But going to United in the mess that they're in at this moment in time, do you really want that? Certainly if they don't get things right on the pitch, and they're not getting things right off the pitch, are they? Everton right now seem to be getting things right off the pitch.
Yeah.
Certainly getting things right on the pitch with the manager.
Yeah, there is that. I mean, look, one thing, like, we can talk about this all day, can't we? But ultimately, we don't know what Liam Delap is thinking. and that's the biggest problem in all this, because we don't know what he's thinking.
Well, I've got a couple of comments here, so I'll go through them. So Thomas says, I don't get the hype around Delap. I'm honestly hoping he picks another club.
There's been a few people, I've seen a few people say that they haven't been very impressed with him.
Other teams,
and they think there's more scope out there for a better forward than what Delap's going to offer Everton.
Other teams have more to sell to him. That's just the reality. Puta says Delap would probably choose Newcastle. It would be great if he chose us, as he would become an all-time hero and would help us score more goals because of his style of play. Do you think his style of play would, he would benefit from a Moyes and Everton style of play?
Probably, yeah. I think he would, yeah. I think he's more built, isn't he, for that kind of target man approach than perhaps going somewhere where it's a little bit more on the floor and you've got to play. But look, like I said, we just don't know what Liam Delap's thinking, do we? I think we'll probably find out soon, though, what he is thinking, because I suspect there'll be clubs, Everton probably one of them, but all the clubs we spoke to will be pushing him for an answer, because they want to know if he's not going to come, that they need to start looking elsewhere for reinforcements this summer.
I mean, Carl Byron has nailed it in this brief sentence here as to why Delap should come to Everton. So Delap needs to develop still. Chelsea, he'll be a bench warmer. Manchester United, it's toxic. And Newcastle have Isaac, which you mentioned. So the sensible choice at the moment is Everton. Do you think that's what David Moyes should say to him?
If you're listening to Liam Delap, that's why I should sign for Everton.
That's going to be an interesting one, isn't it? Because
it's going to be one to follow, isn't it? I'm sure we'll get plenty of mileage out of it over the coming weeks.
How quick? Well, I was going to say, you say weeks. How quick do you expect this to be decided?
Days, going to be weeks. You don't know. But like I say, I think all the clubs we have spoke to will be pushing them for an answer, because I think they'll want to know if they need to go elsewhere this summer and look for alternatives. I
think that's the thing, isn't it? If we do get Delap, then you can see that's the end for Calvert-Lewin completely. I mean, he might want to go anywhere, that's fine. But if we don't get Delap, do the club then go back on the table, the negotiating table with Calvert-Lewin? The compromises, there's some sort of compromise there, but we'll just have to see.
We just don't know.
Okay. A potential outgoing, another player whose contract is going to expire, Idrissa Gueye. How well did he play on Sunday?
Well, he's just 8 out of 10 every week, isn't he? Be absolutely devastating if he doesn't.
I already know my answer to one of the questions later on in this podcast.
Yeah.
Well, how important is it then that he signs a new deal? Because
again, huge,
I've seen reports that he's not going to sign. He wants to go back to Paris.
It's huge, isn't it? Like, if he doesn't sign, you'd be bitterly disappointed. And I think it'd be devastating if he doesn't put pen to paper on a new deal. We obviously don't know what's going on. But there's obviously been reports from France that Paris FC are interested in him this summer. So we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, it'd be gut wrenching if Idrissa Gueye didn't, because there's actually an argument to say that with age he's got better. Like, I think is he 35 now? But still being one of Everton's outstanding performers this season. They're a crucial part in everything that's been good about them. And yeah, if he doesn't sign, it'll be absolutely devastating.
It'll be devastating in the sense that we're losing players. Obviously, Decore's gone, that's fine, or he's going. If Guy goes, if Keane goes, we're on the verge of losing too many players, which we knew could have been the case. So,
but this goes back to what I said to the week, though, doesn't it? Because when we talked about the pod and we talked about contracts, and I said, well, the issue Everton have got is they can offer these players contracts, but them players don't have to take the contracts.
No, exactly, yeah.
And obviously we've seen that already with Decore and Ashley Young. We're both offered new deals and rejected them to go elsewhere. So, there's obviously that element to it, isn't there, as well? Just because Everton offer these players a contract doesn't mean they're going to want to sign it and commit their future to the football club if they can get better offers elsewhere.
And the problem is replacing, said player with who? Can that player do a good job? Can we afford the transfer evaluation? Can we afford the wages? All these things that come with it.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. That's why it's such a big decision, and one hopefully that Everton managed to get over the line.
How are you feeling about Everton at the moment? Positive, going into the future?
Obviously you're positive because, like I say, what you've seen on the pitch, in the second half of the season, what Moyes has done is a huge summer, though, isn't it? And I think...
Hence the name of this podcast, Massive Summer.
Yeah, it's massive. Because, like you say, we do need to keep some players and get some players in. So, yeah, I think there's excitement, but there's also that little bit of trepidation around who leaves and who comes in, because it does look like we're heading for a big squad overhaul, and perhaps even bigger than what we thought it was going to be.
Okay, getting plenty of comments on Delap, so I'll just read a few of them out now. Mark Foster. Tarks had his number at Portman Road, bullied him all afternoon. His only answer was to lose his discipline. And the Blues have said, Chelsea only have Jackson up top and they've got multiple competitions to play in. He'd get plenty of game time there. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, again, it's one of them, isn't it? It's why Everton probably are one of the better clubs to sign him, because he will get game time and, he will be the number one centre forward. But like I say, the big thing is we don't know what Liam Delap's thinking and what his thought process is and where he's got his heart set on going.
I've got one there from John Ryan. After the season playing regularly, I think he would want to play every week. The positivity around the club at the moment and the manager, as Moyes' manager, would help. I think there's still... looking at it, I think there's people who are sold on him, who would definitely have him. I think there's a lot of people who aren't sold on him. Let's face it, £30 million for us is still a lot of money. So the pressure's going to be on, isn't it?
That's the thing. It's like, obviously there's the talk of the transfer kitty, isn't it, and stuff like that. But, 30 million off that transfer kitty on one player is quite the gamble to make, isn't it, essentially, if we're being honest.
Gaspipe said, I'd like to give Keane another go. Michael Keane.
Yeah, I've seen a few people say that they wouldn't be too disheartened if Keane got another 1 year deal. But again, he's another one, isn't he? Like I said the other week on the show, he might look at it and just think, you know what, I can go and play somewhere else for the next few months, and that's what I want.
Okay, moving on. Another potential. Am I allowed to say potential incoming? Possible incoming.
You said it anyway, haven't you? So
okay, we understand Everton are interested in Liverpool winger Ben Doak, a fee of in the region of 25 to 30 million pounds has been spoken about. I think Crystal Palace are also keen on him.
Palace has a big projector for him, didn't he? Use it January, 15 million.
Yeah, and he spent the season on loan in the Championship at Middlesbrough. First off, I don't know how much you've seen of him, but do you like him? Do you think he's decent?
Yeah, I think he's a young, exciting winger, aggressive.
Lots of pace.
Got something about him, lots of pace, and I think they're all the attributes people want to see in a winger. And obviously, out wide is an area that Everton are going to have to do some serious work in this year, given Harrison's gone back, Lindstrom's gone back. We've slowly... Ashley Young's obviously left the football club. He's played out wide in recent years, so there's the options out wide are very limited. So there's an area that Everton are going to have to strengthen. He's someone exciting. He's someone young. I do like the look of him. I think, he's got something about him. Whether Everton managed to get a deal done, I don't know. I think that remains to be seen. I think probably one of them now.
Would you make of it if he crossed the divide, I guess, now is what it is? It's
not relevant now, isn't it?
No.
Like, just, as long as he comes in and puts an effort in,
When was the last time a Liverpool player transferred to Everton? Direct? I don't know the answer. I
don't know, actually.
Maybe people in the comments can let us know on the live stream. We know there's a few gone the other way.
Kevin Sheedy, he went from Liverpool to Everton, didn't he?
Not too sure.
Because it's normally...
Should have done my research before.
It's normally the other way, isn't it?
That's what I mean, yeah.
Xavier, Barmby. I suppose Vesterveld played for Liverpool and then signed for Everton. But
direct.
But he never went direct,
I wonder if
did
it's
he?
ever happened. Beardsley. Someone's just said Carl Barden. Beardsley did that.
Yeah.
Was
I
it?
think it might have been direct.
Yeah. Peter Beardsley.
It's a long time ago.
And he was at Goodison actually for the
final men's game.
Final men's game. Good to see.
So, I mean, that's the one I think is quite interesting. Everton have got an interest there. And I also think it probably hints to the type of wireman that David Moyes is looking to bring in this summer. Someone young, pace, aggressive.
We've had a counter to this Beardsley one. Gary Ablett, last direct transfer in 1992.
Of course, yeah.
2 people have said that. Ravon 91 and I can't read out the name of the next one.
Let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on. Player of the season. Just before you answer, we're going to do a pod on Friday. I think it's going to be me and Joe Thomas. But Monday, which will be what date? Monday the 2nd. Hopefully me, Chris Beasley and Joe Thomas are going to do a season review. I'm sure there'll be plenty of transfer talk as well. But we're obviously going to discuss like player of the season and I guess moment of the season. I'm sure there won't be any wrong guesses for what that one's going to be. But I just thought I'd ask you because you're going away basically. You're not going to be on the pod for at least a while. So who was your player of the season?
Sat on my son lounge on.
You're going to watch us
Monday.
Watching a Royal Blue podcast.
I might do, yeah.
Disgusting that.
If I can get myself away from the bar. Player of the season.
You kind of gave it away before, didn't you? I think what you were saying. 8 out of 10 every game. You said, or is this? Have I just interrupted you?
No. You are right. My player of the season is Idrissa Gana Gueye. I just think he's been outstanding from start to finish. Given his age, just gets better and better. I think you got to have notable shout outs to Iliman Ndiaye, Jordan Pickford, and Jared Brownthwaite. But obviously, Brownthwaite and Ndiaye have had their injury issues, haven't they, this season? But haven't played as much as what Idrissa Gana Gueye has.
I think Ndiaye can probably give a lot more as well.
Oh yeah, Pickford obviously he's just become so what you expect, isn't it? But yeah, I just think Idrissa Gana Gueye has just been the standout, and like I say, I think it'd be absolutely devastating if he doesn't sign a new contract. And this is the end because I think he's been absolutely superb, and he's a mainstay now, isn't he? He's so crucial in the heart of that midfield, and you do fear if Everton don't have him in the middle of that midfield next season, we're going to be a hell of a lot weaker because, like you say, to try and replace someone who's got the attributes that he's got, I think it's going to cost a lot of money.
Well, I'll give my player of the season on Monday, and I can confirm, promise that it's not Beto, just in case anyone thought that it was going to be Beto.
I thought as chairman of the fan club, you might have, had.
It's conflict of interest if
it's compulsory, like you had to vote for him.
Conflict of interest if you vote for the player that you're chairman of the board for. Do you know what I mean?
Chairman of the board for.
Okay. Any final thoughts then before we shoot off?
No, just stick with the Echo over the summer because there might be no football, but you can bet there'll be plenty of news and plenty of things going on. And I think in terms of the summer transfer window, we're in for one hell of a ride.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully things just happen quite quick and sharpish. We get 1 or 2 players in, including I'm including Alcaraz in that as well. I guess watch this space on Jared Brandtwaite. Hopefully, there's nothing too much on him, and with the summer just goes flying by with not much mention about him really. Fingers crossed. Okay, well that is all for today's show. Please remember to give us a like and subscribe to the channel. Drop us some 5-star reviews on Apple and Spotify. Most importantly, enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of your week. We will be back on Friday. And we'll see you then. I've been Ian Croll, joined by Connor O'Neill, and this has been the Royal Blue Podcast.